Hello everybody and welcome to the George Michael Singers podcast. Thank you for listening. Hope you're enjoying the stories. Please don't forget to subscribe. Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Conversations with George Michael Singers, and we have an incredible guest today. We've got DC Lee!
Hooray!
How did you meet him? How did it come about that you worked with him? And yeah, I mean, how did it happen? Where?
Okay, well, I tell you what, I love telling the story because seriously, if it wasn't for Wham, I wouldn't have been put on the map. So basically, sorry, must my phone forget that. So seriously, I had been working for EMI Publishing as a in-house singer. I used to do the vocals for writers who are not vocalists. Right. So a lot of songs going to other artists back in the day. That's how we used to do it. So you'd sing on these different writers' songs, and these songs would go to the artists that whoever they want to go off to. The most famous one that I remember doing was Cliff Richard, and I did that song "Wired for Sound." He got my vocals on the demo, which he then ended up taking and using as a single. Can't remember if it did well or not, but it was just one of the songs, because everything else I ever worked on, I don't ever remember hearing them. So that's a bit of a worry. So while doing that, I was introduced to, in fact, Alan introduced me to Mark Dean, who was running Innovision Records. Mark Dean, and I'm so sorry, I've forgotten the other guy's name, but the two young guys, record company days, and they were introduced to me because they were looking for they needed a female singer. They were putting a band together, two guys, a girl, and they wanted one more girl who could maybe sing and stuff like that. So I was like, yeah, cool, I'd love to go meet these guys. Plus it was nice to get out of the studio because I had this 9 to 5 back in, but it was quite a good job. Don't get me wrong. It was a good job. Yeah. But I had no idea, this is what pushed me into the limelight, was being with Wham.
Wow.
That's how it happened. Yeah.
Hey, I actually remember, I'm not sure, you was working with Central Line at some point, right?
That's right, yeah. That's right, my darling. They were the first guys to literally give me my break. I used to hang out in the studio, making tea and stuff, waiting for them to need a female vocal somewhere. I'm on the hand claps in Walking Into Sunshine.
You believe it or not, I sang the BVs on that.
So maybe we're there together.
Yeah.
You remember me making tea?
Well, no, I don't, because they were managing me at that time. The band was actually, doing some.
I do remember they were managing people, yeah. I do remember, not people, but it was a side that I wasn't, they didn't really involve me at all. I was just, like I said, on. I just used to be hanging out there. They'd be like, oh no, she's here again. It was a bit like that when I met those guys, but in a good way.
Didn't they produce a single for you? Did they produce a single? I know they were working on some stuff with you.
No, but I tell you what you are thinking about is that they worked with a guy called Roy Carter.
Yes,
and Roy Carter got involved in a little production stuff for me, and it definitely introduced me, and that's another story.
Yeah.
That goes into another story, right?
Yeah,
so.
Oh, that's wow! So, I always ask everybody's journey who we've interviewed. How did you start then in the music business? Were you always a singer, or have you got a musical family, or because some people start out as a musician and then go on to sing?
I hear you. Yeah, I hear what you're saying, and well, that's why that's why I trailed off, because I'm thinking I'm saying too much, and you might want to ask me other stuff. So as I was just saying, hanging out with Central Line, that was my very first. I want to be a singer. I've listened to some jazz funk. I've listened to a bunch of vocalists. I've sung in my bathroom. I've sung to my friends. They all think I should go for it. So the next thing was just anybody would listen. I'd just be hanging around. And the only ones who ever gave me a break were Central Line, those guys.
Wow.
And from there again, from Central Line, I met some other people, and it goes like that over the course of time, And through that gig, that's how I got involved in doing the vocals for the EMI gig that I had, working with the likes of the fabulous Alan Jacobs.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. And then that went on. Then from there, you went. That's how you got introduced to Wham and George.
Exactly.
Did you record anything with George in the studio, or did he do all for the Wham bits, or were you just doing the live vocals?
Right. So do you know what? I spent a lot of time in the booth doing a few BVs, but what used to kind of freak me out a little bit, but then I kind of, just got over myself, was that I would hear my vocals, but then I think later on, George wanted to use other people, like he just had a totally different thing. So for a little while, I was a bit freaked out because I was like, I don't really know where to go with this now, because I'm singing, but I'm not hearing my voice, but I am singing. So, I'm just going to stick with it. And then it started to drift from when I actually broached that. And I was like, George, it's great hanging with you guys, but, I come in, do one vocal and I hear other girls' vocals. That's cool, but,
yeah,
what do you want from me, sort of thing? And he was like, if you don't kind of mind, I'd really like it to be like you more up front with Shirley, and, you're really pretty and you should blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, what? No, never, And it kind of just went like that. So he was very honest. He was like, he's got this look.
Yeah, okay.
This look, and, two girls. And he was like, he'd like to have a black girl. And I was like, I don't know why, but he said, you're really pretty and you'd really work. And Shirley and I got on like that the minute we met each other, like two giggling mates.
That was going to be my next question.
So that didn't make it difficult at all. So, she was like my little giggling sister.
Oh,
and that's how it went. I've never, including with Central Line, no disrespect, but I've never gelled so easily with a bunch of people as I did with the Wham guys, right, starting off with George and Andrew and all of them. They was just so cool.
It's
real
so
sweet.
Like, after talking to so many people now through this whole journey with this conversations with the George Michael singers, it's really interesting because he's really put so many people on the map. George it's been phenomenal, isn't it? He put Jay on the map, he put me on the map. Now he's, you on the map. But he was just one of those guys.
Yeah.
He saw something in you, and he wanted to work with you any way, shape,
Absolutely.
or form. How it come, and if he could,
he
could elevate you in any way.
He had his whole thing at the time when I met him. It was him, Andrew, and Shirley. But then he just started to have this other vision of going somewhere else. And every time he did something, you could see something new evolving.
Yeah.
And the way he was doing things, even from the beginning with the original vocals, and then having different vocalists in to give him the sound more what he was looking for.
Yeah.
And he did say, he was like, don't be offended. It's not, not because you're not a good singer or anything. It's just the sound I'm going for or something. He managed to talk me out of it anyway. And I was quite happy to be told I was pretty and get paid. So, that I didn't really...
You've done the video, so you must have...
I was going to say the
doing something right.
Iconic video.
Yeah, I'm still hanging, baby. I'm still hanging here, I'm still hanging out with these people. And it was really like that. We got quite family.
Yeah.
Quite kind of family. So, yeah.
How was that? Because I'm dying to find out about the Tropicana Club Tropicana video and how it all came about and the journey there and back, and was it wild? And because I did he fly a load of friends over on a private jet? Was that?
Well, I tell you what happened. So I was working with them right up to the last thing I worked with them on was Club Tropicana.
Oh right,
and only because. Remember, I wasn't a part of the band. I was still sessioning. So I was what they were, and in those days they called it like permanent session. So you just get paid regularly to sort of be there. Okay. But you wasn't involved in the singles, what was going where. So in between, I was on a retainer to make sure I could be there when they needed me. But I was still sessioning. So I was still working with different people.
Good old days.
Yeah, baby. Just had to work, right? Just had to work.
For real.
Had to get some work, So I just kept working. So, and at that time, I got a gig with a band called Animal Nightlife. Then, if you guys ever remember them at all,
I don't know it now.
You should check them out. They've been kind of almost forgotten, and they were seriously cool. Andy Polaris was the lead singer, and it was a big 9-piece jazz band, London boys type thing. It was wonderful. They had a couple of female vocalists. They downsized and they got they got two for the price of one. So they basically they got me and one vocalist because maybe I was a bit more seasoned by that time.
Yeah.
So they didn't need to. So I got in but so long story short, just started to get a lot of work with these guys, a lot of live work.
Okay.
Halfway through the tour, I get a call saying, Club Tropicana's it's gonna be a single, and we need to do the video. I was like, oh damn, I'm kind of, nobody gave me any kind of warning, and I've just committed to this band, and now I'm in, what am I gonna do? So eventually we worked something out, which was a bit awkward for everybody, but I'd already committed to a band, and once you do that, you can't leave a band in the middle of the tour. Yeah. It's just really unprofessional and really uncool, and you know what it would do to them. So we kind of, it got a little bit tetchy at that time because everyone was like, well, you should be there. But I was like, no, I understand that, but I can't literally spend every day just waiting for you guys to call. I've got to get on with stuff. Yeah. So that's my having a few little problems. So long story short, they flew me from Manchester, where I was in the middle of the tour with this band, flew over from Manchester to Ibiza. Beautiful, and a bit freaked out. George and I were a little bit with each other. We were a little bit, Frosty. He was, and he was because he was really nervous too. He was really excited and nervous, and he really wanted his people to be there. Right. And the thing is, him and Shirley and Andrew, they lived close to each other. They all hung out together, and I hung out with them when I could. But I was based in London, and I was working, so I was on a totally different thing when I wasn't with them. But when I was with them, it's all it's all pure family. Yeah.
Well, you had your own life. You, as you said, you wanted to needed to work, and
I could see that there was different things happening. You can't just sit around going, and it doesn't work like that. Yeah. So what did we do? So we eventually got over it. They got me out there, and they were going to fly me back first thing the next day, so I could not interrupt this tour. So I went out there, so I was acting like a right superstar, because I'm like, I'm getting flown in for one night, all to do this really glamorous video. Then I'm flying back out. I mean, I took it in my stride, but in my head I was going, yeah. Oh yeah. I really felt like a bit of a princess then, but in a good way. And while I was there, we did make up, and we did have a really fun time, and making the video was such a giggle.
You look honest.
Any embarrassing moments?
Sorry?
I was saying, any embarrassing moments in shooting the video?
Well, not so much embarrassing, but the shot where we've got the long sleeve red and white tops?
Yeah.
And the reason why I'm in a swimming costume is when we first got offered the shoot, Shirley was always skinny with, not too much up there in a nice way. And I was like, and a bit too much going on up there for a young lady, to be showing off. And that wasn't what I was out there selling,
It worked.
So I was being a little bit, I don't want to wear that, and I don't want to wear this. I was really trying not to be a diva, but I was really shy about,
I was doing exactly the same.
Right? I was really, I've never been asked to be in a video in a swimming costume before. I've never been asked out to the beach in a swimming costume before, let alone in a video. So it was a bit nerve-wracking. But I do remember George and Andy, you're so beautiful though, and look how good you look. And they really, really talked me into it. And I just think I just eventually it was just such fun. And I insisted on these different outfits that we wore just because I didn't want to be as exposed.
Okay.
And we got away with it. And when we look back at it, I look back at that video and I'm just like, it is so cool.
I know. Iconic. Yeah.
Probably one of the coolest things I've ever done. So, I'm very grateful for that.
You realise at the time, like, how big Wham was going to become when you first started working with them?
I could see it by the second single. I could start to see straight away where they were going, and I could just see things were going to get bigger and better for those guys. And I was going to hang out there for as long as I could, but I knew there was going to come a time, and I made that after Club Tropicana, and kind of made a bit of a clean break after that. But what it does make me really sad is in Club Tropicana, when we were doing that, when I had to go, so I'm trying not to upset myself, I'll give you a sec.
Oh.
George wanted to, I'm going to have to leave it for a second, because he wanted to tell us that he was gay. And I didn't stay, and I didn't realise he counted me so close, Sorry. So yeah, that's always going to burn me a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, he wanted us there, and I didn't stay because I was so busy with my career and had to be back and everything.
Listen, I
really didn't know what a big deal it was to him, you know.
Yeah.
And I wasn't. That's one thing that will always burn me.
Oh,
anyway, let's go.
You know what? I think that it's, I think there's everybody that I've encountered or we've spoken to throughout all of this is one thing that is a familiar thread is that everybody has so much to thank him for, but also
yeah, absolutely. That always upsets me.
Also has this kind of, I get a little bit of guilt with, maybe I could have done this or wish I'd have done that. Because he was,
exactly.
Because we've all had to have our own lives to lead and stuff like that. And so, I get it. I guess that was.
I'm sorry about that. I didn't mean to.
No, it's fine.
It's walking me down that road and it just made me remember. And I have to forget that a lot sometimes because it really, every time I remember, I get in a pickle. How long
was like the period from starting working with him? How long did it last? Or what?
Ooh, let me see. When you're young, you don't even think. I probably spent about 5 to 6 years with those guys.
Wow. Oh, wow. It's a long time.
Yeah. I think it was about that long, right from the beginning. And I'm talking like the very early days when they would be rehearsing dance routines for the PAs of the clubs.
Yeah,
around London and all around the UK. They were fun. They were so funny. I always remember Shirley and I sitting there once, and we got a bunch. Somebody showed us a bunch of like fan mail, and all the girls wanted to kill Shirley and I. That's when we know you'd made it.
Wow.
The girls wanted George and Andrew, and they hated us. Which is like, that's when you know you've made it.
Thank God that social media wasn't around in those days, right?
Oh my God, right? Oh, absolutely. I'd give up. That'd be scary.
Did you?
Yeah, man.
Did you regret not taking, or did you take your camera with you and take pictures?
Do you know what? I didn't. I do regret that. Do you know when I started doing that? Because I learnt my lesson when I started working with the Style Council. And even some from the Animal Nightlife, I started taking pictures then. Yeah. But I always used to kind of forget.
Because it's like we've been asked so many times, have you got pictures of you and George together? And I'm like, no, I've got one picture.
Right? Yeah.
It's mad, isn't it?
Because
me too.
He was such a private person anyway, and you didn't want to encroach in on his privacy or whatever. But even then, it wasn't camera culture then, was it? So everyone,
no, of course it wasn't.
Selfie,
no, it's so true. It's so true. They were very innocent days, actually.
Yeah,
very innocent days.
Yeah,
good old days.
See? I'd hate to be a budding pop star in this day and age now. I really would, because it's just so much more mechanical. And I know it is what it is. Progress is what it is. It's always going to be something, but I'm really grateful that I made music and was around at the time that I was. Excuse me, I was a bit snivelly.
No, I miss a good old vinyl. I miss buying a copy and looking at all the artwork and then sort of actually holding.
Yeah,
right.
There's just something.
And then having a 12-inch as well.
Yeah, the 12 and the whole album thing. You used to have. You'd have your favorite songs on an album, but you would just. I just don't know. There was something just so.
It was tangible. You actually had something. It wasn't like a download. It wasn't in a cloud.
Yeah.
You know what I totally love? I love there's certain people and they still really have this love for just everything vinyl and all that old school way of listening to and making music. And I understand why you want to do that, because there is something so totally different. There's great sounds now, but there's something about that sound with vinyl, especially when it's just a little bit scratched, there was that sound.
Yeah.
It just made all the difference. Sometimes it's just too clean.
Yeah.
So, of course, it's much more human, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it, human. I like music that sounds human, which is why I still love going to see live bands.
Yeah, me too. I love live music.
Yeah, and I know they're getting smaller and smaller, but I'll go to almost anything that if I catch it quick enough and I can get in, I'm there. Just to keep the love for music going,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So when you were working with George back in the day, then did you say you were going around all these different nightclubs and stuff? And
yeah, so we were doing those little PA things. We'd put our records on and mime to them. And yes, they were some weird memories. Sometimes they were quite weird, and you can imagine we weren't in any way famous yet, if you like. So you know, people could get a bit hands on and a bit cheeky and a bit too fresh. So yeah, we had a couple of moments there, but we got through them, and it brought us all closer together as well. You know, always remember a couple of times, like, you know, you go to these clubs, and sometimes the guys will be trying to get handy with Shirley and I, and George and Andrew would be so protective, you know. Make sure these people don't get anywhere near us, and yet we'd still be performing, but still sort of security in us as well. You know, it was really sweet.
Did you have like a tour bus? Did you go around on a tour bus, all of you, or were you all driving?
Remember, I don't think we had. No, I don't think we had a tour bus as such. We did travel together. Yeah, I think we kind of went in cars. I think we just because we weren't really staying overnight in places. We were going up to some sort of nightclub, I don't know, from London up to, I don't know, Canvey Island, or I can't even remember, to be honest, but I do remember we'd go in a car and it'd be a long drive and a long drive back. But we were doing that every so often, and dropping asleep in the back of the car. But yeah, it was a car, not a van. So already good days. That was quite comfortable. That was a taste of things to come.
So do you think, so when you were saying that, like, George put you on the map, was that doing Wham, did that really, like, from there, is that how you got into the Style Council? Is that, or were you recognised from that, or how did that?
Yeah, I was. And George was like, he goes, I know you're going to leave me. He goes, because you've got a really good voice. He goes, you're not just pretty, you've got a really good voice. He goes, and I know you're going to leave me soon. He goes, and when I did the switch over to the Style Council, it was with his blessing, and Paul and him actually met, and they were like, yeah, you know, George was like, you better look after her, you know. I was like, what's going on here? Yeah. Really, like, you know, you got to kind of look after her, sort of thing, you know. It was quite sweet, but then in that time, everybody was friends of everybody anyway. It was like that, right? Everybody knew everybody, like, we knew all the Culture Club people, and, you know, everybody knew each other. There was a certain sort of...
Do you work a lot of songs?
Animal Nightlife.
Sorry?
Including Animal Nightlife. They were also up in this clique of different people that we met, but they probably never really got as commercial as George, you know, the other bands did.
Did you work at the at Psalm then? Were you part of the Psalm hub? You know, Psalm Studios?
No, I don't know. I wasn't. I was totally independent of everybody. My thing was that sometimes if they couldn't get a certain singer, then I'd be next on the list. And then once you're in, you know? So that was slowly how I was getting in. But by that time, I now had about 3 jobs. I was working with the Animal Nightlife, I was working with the Style Council, and I was finishing off working with Wham, whatever the last bits of whatever it was doing, and that was it. But Wham, that finished off really nicely. It started off a bit weird, but we went really kind. And I always remember saying to Jordan, man, you're going to be so massive, you know, get ready. He was like, yeah. I was going, and I could just, you know, he really didn't sort of believe it, but I was going, you're going to be so massive, really.
Did you know at that stage that George would venture into a solo thing? Could you see that at that point?
Oh, definitely, because he had his own little magic, which was growing and growing. The more confident he was getting, the more he was writing. You know, I could just see him really growing and getting somewhere. And every time there was every time he did a performance, he was becoming more polished, more confident, starting to do things out of the rehearsal situation. We're like, oh, hold on, we didn't rehearse that bit. So I was like, yeah, he's getting there. You could see it. And it was fast too.
What a privilege to see the journey
evolve. Yeah.
I feel really privileged that I was there at the beginning, and apart from that little blub I had earlier, because that's the only thing that I regret. You know, I really didn't. He was so insistent on us being there. You know, and I didn't understand it. I was like, man, I'll see you back in London. You know what? I didn't. You know, I really need you to stay, Dee. I really need you to stay. And I was like, if I could, you know what I mean? But I couldn't. But even though we all know it wasn't my fault, but I still makes me feel real sad, because that was his first time of coming out, and I was obviously considered such a close friend. So that's my.
You know what? That's one thing we've all loved about George. I mean, he's always loved having his singers very, very close to him. It's almost like it gave him that kind of security. You know, it's like a blanket. Do you know what I mean? Because he's not a guy that's. You know, he is very private, and he just lets few people in. And if you're
very private, he always was. Yeah, always was. But very sweet and very protective. I always remember when we used to hang.
Definitely.
We used to hang out.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was, and we went through a funny stage in the really early stages when Shirley and Andrew, they were dating. Yeah, they were genuinely dating at the very beginning. And so when the press found out about that, George was like, right, you and I are dating as well. That'll make it even more interesting. So we were friends that were all dating each other. And,
that's cool.
We worked that one for a bit. That was all George's idea. And it makes people interested in you. You know how it...
absolutely.
He was already doing these things. I was like, I don't mind. I didn't have a boyfriend at the time. It's not a problem.
But Dee, can you imagine what that would have been like in today's kind of culture with the social media?
I can't even. Really can't.
Wow.
You were joking.
Have you got a favourite memory of George that you can think of that comes to mind?
Well, to be honest, there's so many, but the ones, if to really go deep, is when I first met him. That's my very, very first memory of him, which was so beautiful because when I met him, he was so humble and so sweet. And really, like when you really have no idea what you're getting into. And, I had no idea that he would be so big because of the way he was, so very sweet and so very humble and kind of very shy. Yeah. And I always remember that about him. Oh. And there's a lot of moments about him, but right now, straight off the top of my head, that's what I'm thinking. That's my memory. I just want to say thank you so much for letting me share those short little memories with you. I didn't realize how much I'd enjoy it. And it's been a long time since I've been in a position to really, talk about those days. I mean, they're my very early days, They were a couple of minutes ago. So when you take a chance and go back, it's really nice. So thank you for the opportunity to do that. Share it.
Oh, thank you so much for coming because I've been desperate to talk to you. And that video is so iconic, and you're still beautiful. But
thank you so much. Thank you, just
thinking, God, that woman is just stunning. I just remember you beautiful lady, and I'm so privileged to have you on our podcast. Really, honestly, thank you so much.
My pleasure, gorgeous.
Is there anything else you could think of that you can share, or if there's another memory or anything funny or a bit of advice he might have given you, or I don't know, just I guess if he was alive today, is there anything you'd like to say to him?
It's really weird. I was going to ask you that question.
Yeah, no, if he was alive today, I would have told him how proud I am of him, and also just not to have let himself get so caught up in everything, because he got kind of swallowed by that world, Yeah. And I thought, but he was if you really knew him, which you guys did, he's a really sensitive guy. Yeah. And I can already start seeing that fame now. If he's not, I don't know how you kind of make it not work against you, but it was kind of working against him.
Yeah.
I think he was feeling it as
Yeah.
Yeah. And the man was just a beautiful man. And sometimes, that strong, beautiful soul of his, it's too much. It's too much. This world is too much.
Yeah, yeah. Especially how it is today as well. I think he'd be so vocal about everything. I mean, he was. Oh my God, he was anyway. He was so political.
Yeah, he was. I forgot that.
But it would be like.
You always had something to say.
He probably wouldn't be doing singing. He'd be probably going into politics.
You know what's really funny? Him and Mr. Weller, they had such a lot in common.
Yeah.
They both got a lot to say. So it was quite funny, like the handover. Oh, you look after my girl. And Paul's like, yeah, I will, And it's like, and they both had, so they had a lovely friendship too. And George said to me, he goes, oh, that's a good band. That is, that's a good writer. Talking about Paul, because I didn't know who he was when I first met him. So George kind of helped me out on that one. I was like, okay. Okay, thank you, Ben.
No, Style Council was a good band, is a good band. He's still, Paul Weller's still going, right? He's still going.
Sure is. He sure is. Yeah.
Still going. Well, we're all still going.
That's it. We need to keep going, baby. I had an album out in 2024. What? That went to number one in the. Yeah, baby.
Tell us
Just something. Check it out. And that did well. The album was called Just Something.
Just Something.
Right.
Yeah. Just DC Lee's latest album. Yeah, it's still out now. Yeah, it's out and about now.
Who produced it, Dee?
And you'll hear what I've been up to.
Who produced it? Was it your production? Was it
Tristan Longsworth on Acid Jazz? Put it out on Acid Jazz label.
Great.
Nice.
I just needed to make some music, so we did. Check it out.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. Nice one. Oh, so lovely talking to you guys.
Thank you for joining the GM Singers. Thank you very much.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Hope you enjoyed that episode of Conversations with the George Michael Singers. We really hope you learned a little bit more about George Michael. Keep listening, keep following us. There's lots more to come.